For people who were here last year, you will remember that we chatted about the evolution of corporate security, especially in the DMV. Brandon, what's happened since last year? Anything new? Do we have anything new to discuss? Or is it much of the same in the world of corporate security modernization?
First, thanks for having me again, Ethel. I really appreciate it, and it's great to see new faces and see some of my old friends and colleagues here. I remember a lot of faces. So the thing is, it's a lot of the same for us. I'm not going to speak for everybody in the executive protection corporate security world, but we have had to evolve. And I hate to use the C word, the dreaded COVID, because that is far in the past, and that's a word in which I don't want to speak of anymore. But we've had to evolve, and it's not so much the evolution of executive protection, corporate security, or things that are changing. It's the changing needs of our clients. That's where we're making some evolution and some revolution and changes of how we do business in our service portfolio.
And actually, that's a good point. That's a good segue, because your clients are evolving in their needs. And of course, that's why we have different stakeholders in the room. What are these new needs? Are your clients who usually task you for man guarding suddenly saying, please sort out my SIEM and security architecture? Or is it something different?
The biggest thing that I'm seeing is our clients are asking for information. So information drives operations. Intelligence drives operations. So instead of just being the close protection, the bodyguard, executive protection, whatever word you want to call it that has been around for hundreds of years now, we're asked to provide more. We're asked to provide more value and more service to our clients. And a lot of it is information. They want to know what the threats are, what the hazards are. They want solution-based, solutions that are based off of actionable intelligence. And as a result, we're having to change how we approach clients and their needs and bring in additional partners and assistance while also training our executive protection personnel to think more critically. We talked about that a lot yesterday during the pre-conference about thinking critically, the changing nature of the executive protection practitioner out there, and we are more, nowadays versus 10, 15 years ago, we're more than just a body with a gun. We have a brain, we need to use it, we need to think critically, we need to have access to that information and the personnel that have the information and potentially the solutions out there that our clients need. Because often we're, not to use the phrase overly, but we're at arm's reach of the client, and we're often the first ones that they reach out to for assistance.
And that's probably something of note for the audience. If you're not in EP, and if you're not even in corporate security, you may not realize how influential EP can be. Executive protection, who might be looking after the principal all the time. I'm not talking about the bodyguard, who suddenly thinks they're the best friend, or the EP operative that now wants to give financial advice to billionaires. We've seen those examples, but there's something else where you're seen as a trusted advisor. Can you describe that? Because are they now asking you for things that are outside of your normal remit, beyond information? Are they saying, Brandon, do you also know someone in this field or that field? Because it feels like EP is a very good channel to get solutions, I suppose, to market in a way.
Yeah, 100%. We're asked to provide information or solutions from everything to, hey, my iPhone won't work, to what gardener should I use? Just a little thing. I mean, it sounds funny, but we're often, I won't use the word confidant, but we are close, we are influential. We have that position, the ability to be, depending on what position you're in within the team or with the client. Every client is different, every situation is different. But you have to have access to the information that the client is going to need, or know who to talk to. There's a lot of things that we're asked to either assist with or facilitate that are outside the normal realm of what one would think of for executive protection. That's just the nature of the business.
And I guess for the corporate stakeholders in the room, sometimes if you're exposed to private family office life, it's a bit shocking because you're used to HR and policy and X, Y, and Z and maybe working life balance, or maybe not. But when you're working in EP, you get that vantage point of working with private family offices and private high net worths and the world of the corporation. What do you think our audience should better understand about the convergence between those two worlds? Because some people leave corporate life, I don't know why, and they go into a family office. They don't like it. They don't like the unpredictability of it. They don't like the end of parameters. What should they better understand about those two worlds?
Well, the corporate side, just kind of like a larger agency or law enforcement agency or a Fortune 500 company, you have an umbrella of support. You have people and departments that assist you, whether that be IT, corporate security, HR, intelligence division, a motor pool, something. When you go into a home office environment, you're there with a select few staff members. They might be personal assistants, they might be drivers, they might be household managers, whatever the case may be. But you're often wearing multiple hats. And I see people that have difficulty with that. We had a very smart gentleman that came to work with us, former Secret Service on the vice presidential detail for a number of years, outstanding practitioner. And once he was exposed to the family office and the different hats he was having to wear with having a lack of support from different sectors, when he was the guy that was doing everything. He's no longer in the executive protection business. He decided that this is not for him. And often it's a difficult transition for folks that come from through other agencies, the military, what have you, to really say, hey, I'm going to wear 6 hats right now. I'm going to facilitate operations for a family office, and also I'm responsible for their protection and threat monitoring as well. Threat detection and threat monitoring. That's too much for a lot of people to really wrap their head around, and it's a difficult transition.
Which kind of speaks to the relevance of including EP in a Convergence forum. Why wouldn't we? Of course, my other hat is Circuit Magazine, so I'm destined to include EP. But it's really a good example of why you need to talk to each other, at least in the community. And I don't know if some people in the room, actually I'm counting maybe 2 that were in London a couple of years ago. You were there, I think. And a prominent female bodyguard leader was promoting female participation in executive protection. But it was telling when they were talking about the difference between corporate life and private security life, because I think, as she indicated, you have to look at your own personal circumstances. Can you, personally, whatever your circumstances, go to Chad for 6 months tomorrow with no notice? Does your family life allow that? And someone piped up from the audience and said, well, you shouldn't be taking on work or clients that act that way. Well, maybe, but there is a distinct difference, isn't there? You have to be nimble. Anyway, that's my segue. Nimble. Do you think EP is therefore the most nimble of security services because you can actually react to changing circumstances? Somebody could say, tomorrow, please, can you bundle in your offering some new cyber service? And you could make it happen.
Yeah, I won't go and take a leap and say that we're the most nimble aspect on the security spectrum at all. I think we should be. We should be extremely nimble for what we're asked to do and the circumstances in which we're put in our clients as well. But yeah, being flexible, being nimble, it's important, and it's also important to have those, as we discussed before, having those solutions. If you don't have an answer to a question, you sure as heck need to know somebody that does. And that's where partnerships really come into place. Speaking on the ability to work for different clients or the ability to drop everything and go, That is kind of in the nature of the business. I can't tell you how many times, and not only as a business, but as an individual, I have worked for clients that I cannot stand. Okay? You need to take a personal account of what you're willing to accept and who you're willing to work for and what you're willing to do as an individual and as a company. Do your religious or your political affiliations prohibit you from working in certain capacities? Will there be a personal or potentially a professional limitation to who you are seen with and who your company is affiliated with, things of that nature? Those are limiting factors, and that's something that every practitioner and every business needs to take account. Because I'm here to tell you, as long as you're not some sort of villain or exposing us to civil or criminal liability, there's not a lot of situations in which we would say no to protected services. Because it's my belief that everyone has the inherent right to feel safe, regardless of your political affiliations, regardless of your views, or your ability to exercise your First Amendment rights is sacred. So our opinions they shouldn't really matter, but they do matter to a lot of people. And that's something that everybody needs to take into consideration when they're going to take on a job or a new task or potentially work for a family office that doesn't align with your views.
And that, I think, is a good example of where convergence with maybe public relations and legal and all sorts of other fields come to the fore, which I think we alluded to in the opening panel. Because, yes, maybe this series started off as cyber and physical, but it's so evident that resilience and FM really need to all come together. Yet people keep on going to different conferences. Great. If you are pure play resilience and you go to the resilience conference, love it. But it doesn't mean you don't have to talk. I'm sure even within corporate security, you must have noticed luxury, for example, they hang out with luxury. Gambling, they have their own conference. But actually the ability to connect and share threats and threat data is really, really key. So could you talk a little bit to the way in which at least private EP services collaborate with each other? Because obviously there are competitors in a given market, but there's also a lot of collaboration opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, especially here in the DMV area, I don't view our other companies, and there's some in this room, as competitors. We're partners. We all either are familiar with each other, work with each other, work for each other in some capacity. There's value in having that network and that partnership, because there's something out there that I can do that you can't, that you have some sort of capability or partnership that I need to leverage or my client needs to leverage. The last panel that you have on here, I was taking it all in because I don't know the first thing about IT. Okay, I don't know the first thing about cybersecurity, but I have a lot of good people that do. Okay, as a leader in the industry, I need to have a fundamental understanding of what the challenges may be for a client, or even my team that might be dealing with an issue or a potential cybersecurity threat or vulnerability. I don't need to be the subject matter expert, but I need to have a rudimentary understanding of the threat landscape. So that's where our partnerships come into play with other security companies, other cybersecurity or information security or consulting companies that can support us. Because we're not, I hate that word one-stop shop. Okay, nobody is a one-stop shop, not in the real sense of the term. Okay, we all use vendors, we all have trusted partners, we all have people that specialize in certain areas. We're really good at some things, we're really bad at others. But we have to leverage each other's strengths and prop up each other's weaknesses as well.
One-stop shop, one throat to choke. I think these are terms that we're going to have later today as well. And to me, that sounds like the channel. Has anyone heard of channel security? Does it sound familiar? Anyone? Well, you're going to hopefully get familiar with it later on this afternoon, because channel, replace channel with distributor. The world of the distributor it makes you realize that EP could be a distributor, or at least a route to market, a route to partnerships. We'll also see IT managed service providers who are bundling more services that are more exotic than you've ever seen before, like CCTV, access control, biometrics. Even within a corporation, the people you speak to on a day-to-day basis will change. Your pure play distributor that you see fixing alarms will be a subcontractor, in my opinion, but we'll see it on the panel, to an IT managed service provider. So I think that's a perfect example of channel security. But anyway, that'll be a term we use later. You mentioned, of course, DMV. Here we are. I'm excited to be here again. What do you think the DMV does to expose how crucial EP and partnerships are? What considerations does the audience really have to have, especially when operating in the DMV? If they're not in EP, what do they need to know?
Regarding the DMV, as you can imagine, this is the nation's capital. We have an embassy or two around here. There's also, I believe, about 72 corporate headquarters for Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies that are within a stone's throw of this building, basically. So the needs of clients out there are rather diverse. There is a lot of requirements for our services, whether that be close protection in the traditional sense of the word, threat monitoring, threat detection, just overall security consulting for special events, things of that nature. So, and another thing as well, there's a lot of security companies in the DMV, District, Virginia, Maryland, this whole area that's 25, 35-mile radius of the nation's capital. That being said, there's not a lot of companies that truly specialize in executive and close protection and diplomatic protection. There's companies that are security companies, man guarding companies that dabble in EP. And then there's companies like us and a few others that are in this room that we're EP-centric. That's what we do. That's our specialty. And we have a small uniform division that takes care of the gates, guards, guns, stuff like that. So there is a lot of work out there for us. There's a lot of challenges as well. Most of them are in the legal spectrum of working in Virginia, Maryland, and DC that all have different laws, all have different requirements and limitations for operating. We can take a drive, a 20-minute drive, and end up in all three jurisdictions, and all three have different requirements for personnel, for executive protection, for carrying of firearms, you name it. So, if we're working with a company that is based in Maryland, we're going to have to coordinate with them and figure out what the legal parameters are versus DC that doesn't even acknowledge executive or close protection. There is no license that exists for it. So there's just different things that make working in the district in this geographical area very unique. The opportunities are limitless, but it all comes down to partnerships, networking, who you know, making a reputation for yourself and your company, and reputation management. Exceeding the demands of also your clients, but your vendors, and the people that are using you to take care of their clients. So this is all reputation based management and understanding the needs of your clients, understanding the needs, the current and the future needs of the industry, and being able to predict and project what the threat landscape is going to be.
And that sounds to me like convergence, doesn't it? Convergence, not even just for EP, but also if you think about jurisdictional supremacy in the DMV, that has to be converged in some respect. Who takes the lead? Capitol Police, State Department, FBI? It is a challenge. And then if you're a private, security professional in a corporation or in EP, and something happens, who takes the lead? Is it your building? Is it someone else's building? Imagine you're diplomatic security and something happens. Well, everybody's a VIP. So if everybody's a VIP, what does that mean for the corporate security in the DMV? Does it mean that some things that are plausible elsewhere are not plausible? Let's say the CEO for a company wanted to do something, ordinarily they'd have scope to do it, but diplomatic protection from X country and the State Department are also in the same restaurant. What challenges does that then present?
Well, that all comes down to advanced planning and coordination and operations management. I'm here to tell you that if we walk into a restaurant in downtown DC or on Capitol Hill and there's a Secret Service detail, we're about as important as the bus boy. Okay, so that's just the private sector versus the 50 or so national law enforcement agencies, national district and municipal law enforcement agencies that we deal with here. You have to have a very robust understanding of their needs, their capabilities, our limitations as a private security, and be able to leverage those and deal with relationships of who you're actually dealing with to coordinate and work together. One of the jurisdictional things I bring up a lot, because we do a lot of work near around Capitol Hill, Supreme Court, things like that. So you take the Supreme Court, okay? Supreme Court has a police department. You step off their property onto the sidewalk of, I think it's Maryland East Street or something. You're in Metropolitan PD's jurisdiction. You walk across the street, you step on their sidewalk, and you're on Capitol Police's. So within about a 25-foot walking distance, you went through 3 law enforcement jurisdictions. That's the type of thing we have to negotiate, we have to coordinate with, and especially as we're moving clients, as we're doing pickups, drop-offs, special events, Capitol Hill meetings, things of that nature. It's just a unique place to work.
And it's a unique place to do a Convergence conference, because that means we get some exciting people in the room. We get some exciting stakeholders that perhaps don't meet each other. And at first, many stakeholders might say, what do I have to talk to you about? But actually, there's a lot of synergy to be had and a lot of future partnerships. So in terms of future partnerships, what, since COVID, have you been offering that you haven't been offering before? And what are you looking at maybe bundling and offering from a stakeholder, possibly in the room, in the future? It doesn't have to name names, but what are you looking to offer, and what have you offered since COVID that you didn't offer before?
Okay, so I'm not going to name names, so I'll just point.
Okay.
So when COVID, the dreaded word, when that kicked off, we had to really reinvent. I won't say reinvent. We still did our core competencies of what executive protection is. Okay, providing protective services. But like I said at the very beginning of this chat, we kind of transitioned into our clients want information, so we pivoted towards protective intelligence, country reports, understanding what our client is dealing with, what their threat is versus another client. Because 2 people in 2 different industries are completely different. Their threat landscape is different. So now what we're actually transitioning in is to more of the technical side of security. Mobile surveillance units. We do a lot of technical surveillance countermeasures now, but the mobile surveillance units being able to leverage the technology and monitoring on a specific site or a client's residence or diplomatic mission, whatever that case is, if it's real-time monitoring in conjunction with a man guarding and the executive protection team all together converged as one. We're really transitioning and pushing a lot of that to our clients, and it's a value added. If you have monitoring that is utilizing four scope scanning radar, and it's monitoring in real time by real analysts and being backed up and being pushed out to the folks in the field, that's bodies that you don't have to have and the client doesn't have to pay for, in essence. So you can actually create a value added to the client while enhancing your capabilities.
And adding value and removing obstacles is a common language, isn't it? Not the Department of No, the Department of yes, comma, but, which I think is something that everyone can engage with. Right, So Brandon, thanks very much for coming on for this fireside chat, changing up the speeds, the tempo, the attitude with our wonderful fire that we're imagining we're having. It's very warm. But yes, thanks for supporting this event. Thanks for the pre-conference day yesterday. Let's give Brandon a big round of applause.